Well, good afternoon and a very warm welcome on behalf of Bugatti Owners Club to this first day of two-day hill climb here at Prescott. Some very pleasant weather to run this hill climb in, and some great cars to see in action during the course of the afternoon. Through the afternoon we'll see contenders in the new Barn RS Interclub Licence Championship, also the Henny Cider Classic Speed Championship and the Ferrari Hill Climb Championship, along with contenders in the Bugatti Owners Club All-Comers category. So lots to look forward to. Two timed runs scheduled for the afternoon for each of the competitors. A number of the classes run into handicap rather than on outright time, and we'll run through that in just a moment. Just a little overcast at the moment, but the forecast threatening only a very low chance of rain, so hopefully things will stay nice and dry. But the first car on the line to start the timed action, it is car number 20 in the new Barn RS Interclub Licence Championship Saloons. It's Ben Williamowski in the BMW E30, the 318IS. IS designating the 16-valve 1.8 litre four-cylinder engine in that car as he gets away. And up the hill we have a time after the first 64 feet of 2.84 seconds, and his speed as he goes under the bridge 54 miles an hour. And he heads then through the first left-hander into Ettores, the tight right-hander. And from Ettores it's on up to Pardon, which is of course the left-hand hairpin, which he comes through now. And from Pardon on into the S's. And from the S's, which he goes to now, it's around semicircle as our second car gets underway. That's Chris D in the Austin Mini, running a 1340 engine, so obviously bored out, car number 21. Chris a little bit slower, 52 miles an hour as he goes under the bridge. But obviously giving away some CCs to the BMW. As I say, it's not all about fastest time anyway. This class are running on handicap, and how that works is that our grand wizard of handicapping, Tim, on the start line here, gives each car a handicap time, effectively a target to look to better. As Will Goff gets underway, was originally scheduled to be in a Ford Sierra Cosworth, but running the Alfa Romeo instead. Well, car number 22. As I say, the car's aiming to better their handicap time, and whoever betters the time by the most wins the class, unless you actually beat the handicap time by too much, in which case you can suddenly find yourself right at the bottom of the category. I believe it's 20%. If you better your handicap time by more than 20%, you effectively drop to the bottom of the standings as Stephen Sims gets away in that 2-litre Renault Clio Sport. And 51 miles an hour for him under the bridge, a little bit slower, not surprisingly, than the Sierra Cosworth. But neatly round Ettores and on his way up to Pardon, which he comes to now. Big lock-up as he goes into Pardon, but gets around the hairpin, heads off to the S's. Sam Williamowski is now lining up in the car number 24, again the BMW E30 318i. Wait for speed under the bridge, 51 miles an hour, exactly the same as the Renault Clio in fact, as he goes on into Ettores now. Time just coming up for Stephen Sims, 57.85 for the Renault Clio. Another lock-up, this time from Sam in the BMW, just going into Pardon, safely around the hairpin. On the line now, the car number 25 is James Dockery in the Subaru STI 2-litre machine. We've got another newer Impreza coming a little later on, and that's the 2.5 litre version. But James in the 2-litre machine going up to Ettores there. Obviously benefits from the four-wheel drive powering out of those tight corners and off the line as well, of course. Around Pardon he goes on up to the S's. And it's MG on the line now as the Pretzer goes through the S's. The MG car number 43 is Jamie Stevens in the ZR 1.8 litre machine. Jamie only giving away 4 miles an hour to the Subaru. That's not too bad at all as he goes went under the bridge. Around to Tories, the front wheel drive machine goes. Up to Pardon, no lock up there for him, nicely through there, nice neat line. And on to the S's, and it's rear wheel drive machine next. It is the Frog Eye Sprite. And this is the first of the sports cars in the New Barn Championship. Eamon Pat Cooper in that Frog Eye Sprite, 1275cc, so the standard engine. All the early ones were 998 of course, and the Frog Eyes, only the Mark 1s I think between 1958 and 61 had the Frog Eye look on the front end. It was originally planned that they would be pop-up headlights, but then the powers that be at Austin Healey decided it would be too expensive to do that, so they ended up with the Frog Eye headlights instead. He goes around Pardon. To the S's, that's Pat Cooper on the line now, a rather newer sports car. It is the Caterham Road Sport 1600cc, car number 31, and that is the car of Colin Davis. Lotus of course originally built the 7 sports car, but when they stopped production, Caterham bought the rights and produced a number of models over the year based on the Lotus 7 design. But as they have evolved, they've got to a point where they share absolutely no common parts with the Lotus 7 whatsoever. Colin Davis then in the 1600cc version comes around the hairpin. And a little bit smoky heading on up into the S's. Through there he goes, and the Austin Healey Sprite, another Frog Eye. This is the car of Peter Neal, number 32, gets away once again, 1275cc. Engine in this Mark 1 Sprite. Still managing it to wind it up to 53 miles an hour as he goes under the bridge, which is no mean achievement for a car that is getting on to about 60 years old now. Very cleanly through the hairpin. We turn our attention back to the line, and another Caterham. It's the Caterham Super Sport 1600, number 33 of Dominic Morland, who gets away and heads up towards the famous bridge here at Prescott. Quicker off the line, but not getting up to the same sort of speed under bridge. Gets around the Tories. Through Pardon goes that Caterham Super Sport of Dominic Morland. On the line, David Rose in the iconic Lotus Elan 1600, the brainchild of Colin Chapman, along of course with the Lotus 7. Spawned the Caterhams later on, but David in that beautiful looking Lotus Elan gets into a Tory, very quick off the line, very getting up to speed really well there. And heads up now to Pardon. And there he goes. It's another Lotus that we'll be seeing next, but a much newer one because it's the Lotus Elise S160 of Kenneth Williamson. This one, of course, mid-engine as opposed to the front-engine Elan. The Elise gets away then, 1800cc engine under the engine cover. Not as quick on the bridge as David Rose, but still going well. Should benefit from better handling with that mid-engine setup. As I say, a much newer car. So as Kenneth Williamson rather gets underway, gets through the S's, getting underway is Rob Gutteridge in the Mazda Mx-5. Mx-5 very much a staple of speed events these days, whether it's hill climbs or sprints. A lot of people competing in these cars, and a car that really carries on the tradition of the front-engined rear-wheel drive sports car. Mazda have had immense success with this car. They've sold well over 1 million of the various versions. They started at 1600cc and then pretty quickly grew to 1800. This one running at 1840cc, in fact. Depending on model, many of them have a limited slip diff as well. It's another MX-5 then that gets away, and this one number 38, Steve Perry. Those not Mark 1s, it was only the Mark 1. In fact, that is a Mark 1 as I say that, because it's got the pop-up headlights, and only the Mark 1 had those pop-up headlights. A little bit slower than Rob Gutteridge off the line. He's around the Tories. We'll get a split time from there in a moment as he comes into Parton. Yeah, down a little bit on time compared to the car ahead of him. As Paul Farrow gets away in his Mazda Mx-5, car number 39. Virtually identical time on the opening run to Steve Perry, but a bit quicker as he goes under the bridge. Nose dips as he brakes for Ettores. And it will be another of the plethora of MX-5s that we have here off the line. Next car, number 40, is Steve Reilly. Once again, 1.8 as all the cars have been so far, all the MX-5s have been so far. A little bit slower off the line. And certainly down on speed as he gets under the bridge. Around Ettores he goes. And on up to Parton. Another MX-5 about to leave the line, but this time it's the 2-litre version. Car number 41 of John Wadsworth. The red machine with the hardtop then getting away off the line. Just that little bit more engine capacity and the bonnet. And that's reflected in a little bit quicker time as it goes under, or a little bit quicker speed I should say, as it goes under the bridge. And the red flags are out, so the runs are stopped momentarily. Obviously some sort of problem on the hill. The red flags out, and we have a brief break in runs. So the marshals, as ever here at Prescott, will be quickly into action to deal with the problem that has brought out the red flag. As ever, we have to give a huge thank you to all our marshals here who work purely for the love of the sport, and they do a fantastic job. They're really well trained and look after the safety of everybody here at Prescott. No spectators here across today, unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and as we watch this hill climb, we of course also remember everybody who has been affected by this tragic COVID-19 pandemic. So car number 41 returns to the paddock, and we'll presumably get a rerun a little bit later on, but now it's an MGTF breaking up the ranks of the Mazdas. This is car number 42, the car of John White, with that 1800cc mid-engine configuration. And we just wait for John to get underway, and away he goes off the line. Good running so far in this early stage then, as he goes up towards Ettores. A fairly incident-free morning's practice. Some good runs and some great machinery out there on the hill. We did have one car choosing to go straight on at Ettores, unfortunately, but no harm other than possibly to the driver's checkbook. Through the S's then goes John White, as on the line now is car number 44, Stephen Cooper, in the Porsche 924 Turbo, 2-litre engine, the first on the front-engined Porsches, of course, after the various 911s, and that 2-litre engine under the bonnet. Goes into Ettores, going well too as he comes around there. Very good intermediate time. On up through the S's, and it's the larger Porsche, the 944 S2 of Paul Renison, number 45, who goes off the line now. The 3-litre version of the 944, the early one's 2.5 litres, this one a 3-litre machine. And he heads into Ettores this time. Just leaving the braking as late as he possibly could there, I think. Perhaps a little bit too late, but he's around there. And on up to Pardon. Into the left-hand he goes. Plows it away from there up towards the S's. Once again, a little bit of smoke as John Wadsworth gets off the line in his 2-litre Mazda Mx-5 for his rerun after he was red flagged on his initial run. And this is a good opening section for him as he comes into that right-hand corner. It is a challenging course, the Prescott hill climb course, a distance of 1,127 yards in this full course. There is a short course option which is just 880 yards, but it's this full course that is used most as Zoe Shearman gets away, car number 47, this time in the Toyota MR2. Once again, a mid-engined machine, 1800 cc's. And she goes around Ettores, very apt name, of course, for a venue owned and run by Bugatti Owners Club. Into Pardon. Very clean run indeed. It's going through the S's now and then on up to semicircle as Martin Morrison gets his MR2 off the line, car number 48. Well, no longer in production, the MR2 from Toyota, but in various guises, starting with the more angular Mark 1. It was a very successful car for Toyota. They rounded the corners off somewhat for the later versions like this one. On the line now is number 49, that's Richard Durant in the Triumph TR4A with the 2.2 litre engine under the bonnet. The TR4A replacing the TR4, no surprise there. And they changed the suspension on it basically because it had a live back axle in its original guise as the TR4. Certain people anyway complained about the ride, the choppy ride with that, so they introduced independent rear suspension. So you see on many of the TR4As a badge saying IRS to denote the independent rear suspension, although they did also offer a live back axle version, I think mainly for the American market, subsequently having listened to the criticism. Put independent rear suspension in. There were some people who still, there's a big lock up there into Pardon for John Tewson, for Richard Durant. John Tewson, the next man on the line, in fact. people then asked for the life back axle again, and that was reintroduced. So John Tewson, as I say, on the line now, 730 in the frog-eyed Sprite once again, number 1275. Sorry, number 730, 1275 cc, of course. And he gets away. Good start, lively start there for this older sports car. Exactly the same speed under the bridge as the MR2. He goes around Torres on up towards Pardon. Can he get cleanly around there? Yeah, no lucky lock up for him as he goes around the left-hander and on up into the S's. All the way through the S's up there. I well remember a good many years ago now, a 500cc Formula 3 car doing a sharp left and diving off into the trees. That's not possible anymore. But away now, 7:31. It's Sarah Davis once again in the Caterham Road Sports. A number of the cars, of course, being shared by two drivers today. Sarah now in that car, now 7:31, and 56 miles an hour, one of the quicker speeds that we've seen under the bridge so far. And again, we have a change of vehicle for the next driver up as the Caterham goes towards the S's, because Mike Henney was originally down to be in an Alfa Romeo 2-litre GTV, but is now in this beautiful looking Lotus twin-cam Lotus Cortina Mark 1. 59 miles an hour. Again, a good speed for a car that dates back to the early 60s, of course. Wonderful car that enjoyed success in both racing and rallying. As he gets it all a bit out of shape and up onto the grass, but carries on. So a bit of time drop there at Pardon, but was back up to pace through the S's. As down on the start line now is an Alfa Romeo. This time it is the Alfa Romeo Bellina 1750cc engine machine of Philip Stader, car number 61. Eye-catching livery. He gets away from the line. Slower off the line, but up to the same speed, 59 miles an hour under the bridge in this beautiful Alfa Romeo, again dating back to the 60s. Successfully around Pardon and onto the S of the next car on the line, number 62, Andy Clark, in an absolutely immaculate looking Mini 1430cc, which is getting towards the higher end of what you can bore an A-Series engine out to. There are 1480s out there now, this one a 1430. The A-Series engine goes all the way back to 1950. And I remember rightly, they stopped producing it in 2000, but just short of its 50th anniversary. This is say much modified 1430cc, and certainly propelling that car rapidly up the hill. And through the S's, another Mini. This one a little bit larger again, 1460cc for Matt Clark in his red machine, car number 63. Up the hill. The 30cc's make any difference? Well, he was certainly significantly quicker. I think that's the quickest car we've seen under the hill, so under the bridge so far. 65 miles an hour under there, as you confirmed by Torres. Again, immaculately turned out, this Mini. It doesn't look highly modified from the outside, but obviously under the bonnet, a lot of work gone in there. And on the line, well, we've seen a couple of BMWs. This is a rather older one, the 2002 machine of Anthony Ward, car number 64, who has a problem by the looks of it, and has, well, I'm not sure whether he has a mechanical problem or whether he was red flagged. We'll just check that. I think he was probably red flagged for some reason. So yes, it looks like car 64 will get a rerun. So the marshals back in action once again to get the hill ready for the reruns, or for the continuing runs, but also a rerun for number 64. Marshall's just explaining to him how he can get back down the link road back to the start line for his rerun. That's Anthony Ward in that BMW 2002. It appears there may have been some fluid dropped on the track from one of the earlier cars. We'll just wait and see what comes of that. It might have been car number 48, Martin Morrison, the Toyota. If you remember, he got up onto the inside grass verge, but it seems there is some fluid as you come out of Pardon hairpin and end, but no, so it wouldn't have been that caused it, because the fluid has been dropped on the approach to Pardon, and the marshal's now busy laying down the special absorbent powder that soaks up the fluid and makes sure it doesn't act as a little bit of a trap for the later drivers. In fact, there is fluid, it looks like there's certainly work being done both on the approach to Pardon and on the exit. Just keeping our marshals busy. It'll take them a minute or two to get that sorted out. If you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, then, and you know anyone who enjoys their hill climbing, then now might be a good time to message them and tell them to get on there and watch the action live here at Prescott. Well, it looks like we'll have a slightly longer pause because there's now a full track inspection being made to ensure that there's no fluids dropped anywhere else, but we'll be back in action in just a moment or two.
The Autumn Classic meeting in October was also the final round of the Hennies Cider Classic Championship, which had produced some of the most entertaining and closely fought competitions throughout 2019, visiting a variety of hill climb and sprint courses across the UK and featuring 4 rounds here at Prescott. Classic Championship has been a recent success story for the Bugatti Owners Club, with competitors aiming to better their own handicap target times, and this has allowed less experienced drivers to challenge for class wins and ensures all cars throughout the championship can be competitive no matter how powerful the engine. Proved a great way of keeping so much variety of classic cars on the hill today. The series is divided into 3 categories. Saloon class for pre-77 cars features vehicles such as Imps, Scimitars, and this Ford Escort Mark I, driven by Simon Braithwaite, a former historic rally car, and a stunning example of a car which was so successful in British and world rallying in the 70s. It would be replaced by the ever-popular and even more successful Mark II Escort, of which there are also examples competing in the Classic Championship today. The Minis of Matt Clark and Graham Hill would have a season-long battle in the saloon class, thrilling spectators with some incredible car control as they often place the Minis in all kinds of angles around the hill, demonstrating how effective the car's handling is on the twisty course here at Prescott. Championship sponsor Mike Henney would take 3rd place overall in the saloon class for 2019 in his Ford Lotus Cortina, with Yvette Stader 2nd in the very rare and pretty Alfa Romeo Berlina she shares with her husband Philip. Callum Barney would take the overall class win in the saloons with his Ford Cortina GT. The sports car class for pre-77 cars also features a great variety of manufacturers, from Lancias, Ginettas to Austin Healey's and even Porsche 911. Steve Fenner would claim 3rd overall in his MGB, and a few points ahead would be John Newton in 2nd place, driving the Austin Healey Mark I Sprite. Brian Ashley in the MGB would take overall honours, scoring heavily in the final 4 rounds to move clear at the top of the standings. The single-seater racing car class for pre-72 vehicles was also widely supported throughout the season. Carol Nichols in the Nike Mark IV Ford built by her father had a great season to claim 2nd, Andy Tippett in the glorious Brabham BT30X with its Buick engine would have a close battle with Les Buck, would take the overall class win. Les in the Pringett Mistral Formula Ford narrowly edged ahead to take the overall title.
So our great celebration year draws to a spectacular close. The club is in great shape to embark upon the next 90 years, and we look forward to our own centenary in 2029.
So a little look back there at the 2019 season whilst we wait for the oil to be cleared, which hopefully will be done fairly shortly, and we can get the action back underway.
So that was a bit of a tricky qualifying for you there, Scott, but you ended up getting the win. How does that feel?
Oh, it was great, yeah. I was nearly in the gravel trap at Tories in the qualifying, and it was just one of those come off the brakes and hope it turns, and thankfully it did. But yeah, it was good. I was glad to have the win. A bit gutted for Trev, he ended up in the bank at Pardon, but hopefully he'll get it all sorted this afternoon. But I was sat on the start line and qualified a little bit quicker than Robert in the 1 litre Raptor, and saw his time come up on the board. I thought, better pull my finger out. Can't have a scooter engine winning this. So, yeah, it was a good run off, really close by all of us. So yeah, it's good fun.
So you're back in the big beast. This has been the most successful hill climb car of all time. This Gould. How does it compare with the new bunch of cars coming through?
Oh, I think it's obviously, it's still capable at the moment of winning. How long that lasts for is going to, only time will tell on that. But it's really good to have, 4 or 5 different constructors and lots of different cars and, and driver combinations. So, but yeah, I think, it's still got a couple of years in it, hopefully. But otherwise we'll have to hang it on the wall or something. Yeah.
So, Wallace, you're out in the new car. It's still in development. It's one of the new breed of cars. You've driven quite a lot of different hill climb cars. How does this compare with your others?
This one's, they're all absolutely different and individual in their own ways. Totally different again. This one, a new learning curve from the 55 next door, which is a fantastic car and really well developed, to jump into this one. Really a clean sheet of paper and learn with it. And this is now the 3rd year, but yeah, we're still kind of developing heavily. We've done more testing this year than we've done before, which has helped on a mechanical basis. Aero platform of it's now really stable, and we're quite happy where we've got to with that. You obviously always want more, but it's a balance and a compromise. The telemetry side of it helps a lot. The kind of technologies in the car's running laser ride height gauges, 1 in the front, 2 in the rear, potentiometers on all the corners so you can see what the dampers are doing, and loads string gauges and all the push rods so we can see what load we're putting through each corner, and that tied into the pitot tube in the front for windy days to give us aero. So somebody far more intelligent than I can look at it and tell you what it's doing. So there's no hiding from the laptop, it never lies. But it makes it slightly easier. If you're getting a feeling from the car, more often than not, the data and the amount of data we've now got available confirms that, or on odd occasions it completely denies it and the driver's talking rubbish.
So, Chris, we've got some exciting news from the Bugatti Trust.
Absolutely. We had a great old friend return back to Prescott, Vermeil Bugatti as we know it, the 5950B. The car actually came to our first international meeting in 1939, and even though the car was a little bit unsuited to the track here, being a big car, twin rear wheels, big 4.8 litre engine, it did very well. Came second to Raymond Mays in R4D.
And what sort of condition is it in now?
Well, it's in reasonable condition, given that it's a racing car, and it was probably never like a showroom car in the first place. But yeah, we're just so pleased to have it here, and it just looks a picture in the trust.
And that's original condition, effectively?
Original condition. The engine is not running, so we won't be able to run it on the track, unfortunately. But yeah, it's in the condition that it was last run. I believe the last time that it's raced was 1946 circa. I might be a little 1 or 2 years out on that, but it's in the same condition that it finished that race in. And of course, Jean-Pierre Vermeil, the driver, probably thought of as Bugatti's most loyal driver. Although he went on to have Grand Prix success with Alfa Romeo, and would probably have been the first Bugatti Grand Prix champion. But unfortunately he lost his life in a crash, as a lot of people do in those days.
Alex, you're in the Firestorm. You're breaking the trend, really. There's a lot of other cars out here, but you're sort of out on your own with the Firestorm. How's that working for you?
Well, we really enjoy it. I mean, we've been running DJs now since 2011, and we've got a good relationship with the guys back at the factory. Andy comes and helps us every weekend, and you know, so much of this is actually more about how you feel in a car and the level of support that you get.
Well, you've been doing really well with it, and obviously it's a different engine choice to many of the other cars. Is that working well for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked the engine. I think when I first started watching, it was 12, 13, it was Graham White Jr. had this engine in a GR51 Gould, and I don't think you can have been that age in that era and not been a fan of Graham. You know, and his legacy lives on. And you know, even though he's not driving so much anymore, his cars are running, and it just seemed like the right engine at the time. It was the right price. It's very light. It's very torquey. It's quite benign. It is underpowered, absolutely. But then, you know, part of getting Dad and Mum in the car and enjoying it is having that ability for it not to be all or nothing. For it, to be able to modulate the power. And I've been lucky enough to drive really powerful cars, and I just don't think they would like it. I think it would be too much of a jump. You know, I mean, they are so fast, these things. It really doesn't to watch them from the outside, maybe, but it really doesn't give you a real picture until you drop the clutch. And it's, we're doing perhaps 115 at the first corner in 4 seconds or 4 and a bit seconds.
So, Ash Mason, you're in the Westfield this weekend, leading the class so far. You've come back to modified. You've raced a lot of single-seaters. How does this class compare?
We experimented with various single-seaters and enjoyed it. This is still a challenge. It's still great fun. A little bit more sensible speed, but nonetheless we're not hanging around. But it's still just the same. We're on slicks. We've got plenty of power. The car's very quick. Our times are almost close to qualifying for a single-seater. So, but it's slightly less expensive when it goes wrong. A few bits to knock off.
And how do you find you have to modify your driving style in the Westfield versus the single-seater?
I think you have to be a little bit smoother. The car's a little bit softer, so you can't be as aggressive because you don't have the aero to play with. So you have to, a little bit like your Formula Ford, keep the speeds up, keep it moving, not try to scrub off any speed because your corner speeds drop dramatically with no aero.
Well, with perfect timing as we come to the end of that highlights package, looking back at the April 2019 meeting, the red flags are coming in off the hill. We're going to be getting back underway very, very shortly indeed. Apologies for the delay. But hopefully you enjoyed those highlights packages, and we'll have some live action for you in just a moment with the last couple of pre-77 saloon cars still to go up the hill. But meanwhile, we've also got some results for you now with adjusted on handicap, looking at the first category we saw, which was the New Barn RS Inter Club Licence Championship saloon cars. Quickest overall, but also bettering his handicap by 1.02 seconds. It was car number 25, James Dockery, in the Subaru STI. Meanwhile, we have the Ford Anglia number 65 of Dave Parr, the 1700cc machine, on the line, ready to get action back underway. Second in the saloons, just not quite able to match his handicap, but just 0.13 of a second over it was 43 Jamie Stevens in the MGZR as the Anglia gets off the line and heads up the hill. Seems like he might be having a little bit of trouble finding the gear then, but coming up behind him, it's the car that replaced the Anglia in the Ford lineup. It's the Mark I Ford Escort, an iconic looking car, a silver machine with the bubble wheel arches. But, the Escort, the car 66 of Martin Saunders, will be seen in just a moment with the 2-litre engine under the bonnet. There it is, and away he goes. Well, just getting back to the results for a moment. Jamie Stevens, I say second, missing out on his handicap time by 0.13, missing out on his handicap time by just 0.17, so 400ths difference. In effect was number 20, Ben Williamowski, who in the E30 BMW 318IS. So that's the top three from the saloon category, as we have sat on the line car number 64, who was of course red flagged on his first run up the hill, and that's the BMW 2002 of Anthony Ward. 2-litre machine then heading off up the hill. Next up, number 67, Simon Braithwaite in the Ford Escort RS 1600, albeit sporting a 2-litre engine in this version, again with the bubble arches, the Mark 1 Escort of Simon Braithwaite. Fourth in the saloon category is currently Will Goff. This is after 1 out of the 2 runs, of course. Will in the Alfa Romeo, who is 1.12 over his handicap time. Fifth, number 21, Chris D in the Austin Mini, 1.31 over. Sixth is number 23, Stephen Sims in the Renault Clio Sport, as we have the BMW now off the hill, and red flags back out once again, which will at least give us a chance to catch up on these results, completing the saloons in I think 23 Stephen Sims 1.85 in the Renault over his time in the Renault Clio Sport. And then number 24, Sam Wolomovsky, 5.01 over his target time. Sam, of course, in the BMW E30 318i as well. Moving on then to the New Barn Sports category. Paul Renison, number 45, bettered his handicap time by 1.82 seconds. Paul, of course, in the Porsche 944 S2. Bettering his handicap time by number 37 by 1.41 seconds is number 37, Rob Gutteridge. Rob in the Mazda Mx-5. Sarah Davis, 1.20 under handicap time. Car number 731, the Caterham Road Sport. 0.83 seconds under handicap time, number 44, Stephen Cooper in the Porsche 924 Turbo. Number 47 is Zoe Shearman, 0.56 under handicap in the Toyota MR2. Then it's number 31, Colin Davis, 0.19 under handicap time, number 31, Colin Davis in the Caterham Road Sport. So that's the top 6 in the Interclub Sports category. So it appears there may still be some fluid on track, and that catching out Anthony Ward on his second attempt to climb the hill, and that's what's brought out the red flags. Well, I can give you some results as they stand at the moment in the pre-77 saloon car category in the Henny Cider Classic Speed Championship, although not all the cars have yet managed to complete their first run up the hill. But as it stands at the moment, it is number 61, Philip Stader, in the Austin A35, who did a 53.65, 1.2 seconds over the handicap that was set, 1.49 seconds over handicap, but quickest overall in the class so far with a 51.99 is 63 Matt Clark in the Austin Mini. Then it's Andy Clark, number 62, 1.94 seconds over handicap. Then 66 Martin Saunders in the Mark 1 Escort, 2.97 over. 65 is Dave Parr in the Ford Anglia, and he was 4.04 seconds over his handicap time. Then 60, McKenny and Mike doing, a 6.36 seconds, 60.14 was his actual time, 6.36 seconds over handicap. That's as it stands, but 3 cars still to have their first run up the hill in this pre-77 saloon category. Well, as you can see, the clearing work still continuing. The red flags still remain out. Plenty of fluid, unfortunately, having been dropped. So a lot of work for the marshals to do, and once again, thanks to them for all their efforts. And in a moment, we should have the last couple of the pre-77 saloon cars. After that, it's pre-77 sports cars. Then pre-77 sports racing cars, followed by pre-77 racing cars. When we get into the Bugatti Owners Club all-comers category, saloons, sport and racing cars, and then to round off, the first run will be the Ferrari Hill Climb Championship, the Pirelli Ferrari Hill Climb Championship. Don't forget, there's a full day of hill climb action again tomorrow here at Prescott, and that once again will be available live on YouTube and Facebook. The next scheduled meeting after that is, from memory, October the 4th and 5th, I think it is. And for news on whether it be possible to spectate at that one or watch it live streamed, and just keep your eye on the Prescott Facebook page and website.
He might just get us in the edge of the shot when they're running, maybe. We point and look like we're interested.
Still plenty of fantastic machinery to look forward to going up the hill. Just on this first run before they all do it once again, including Bugattis, ERAs, and some wonderful Ferraris, including a short wheelbase Ferrari 250 GT. So plenty of action still to look forward to this afternoon, and we should be getting back underway hopefully very shortly when this clear-up operation is completed. Well, you may hear in the background the sound of the Escort RS 1600, the 2-litre engine car now, and the beautiful induction noise from the Weber carburetors on that machine. And hopefully we will see it making its way up the hill very shortly. There it is on the screen now, with a very appropriate number plate 949BDA, the original engine, of course, the 1600cc BDA engine under the bonnet of that homologation special that was the RS 1600 Mark 1 Escort. Well, you can see there just how extensive that unfortunate leak has been, and we're getting close to having the absorbent powder all the way up the hill at the moment. Many years ago it used to be cement powder that we used to, back in the days when even I marshalled, it's a long time ago now. We used to use cement powder. These days it's a more environmentally friendly material that's used to soak up the oil that's been dropped onto the track. Well, just looking along the hill, it looks like we might be somewhere near completion, but I'm sure the driver's going to be just a little bit cautious, certainly on the first few drivers going up the hill. There's so much powder down now, but I think we could be getting close to a restart very, very shortly. Just looking back to this morning's practice and looking at the overall fastest times of the morning, then fastest was Sean Gould, car number 7. Sean in the Gould GR59JB, who did a 37.85 seconds, but hard on his heels, car number 2 in the DJ Firehawk is Alex Summers, who did a 37.99. Then third quickest was number 12, Inan Price, in the Force TA with a 38.95. Fourth quickest, number 9, Robert Kennick. And Robert in the GWR Raptor 2 did a 41.15. And rounding off the top 5 overall times was 1:54. That's Clive James Austin in the Empire Wraith with a 41.57. So all relatively close together then in the top 5. And those are the times they will be looking to improve on during the timed runs this afternoon. As I say, Sean Gould, quickest so far today. He did a 37.98 and a 37.85 in his 2 runs. Alex Summers did a 38.12 and then improved to a 37.99 in his 2. So it looks like we are just about ready to get back underway then. As I say, it's car 67 that is on the line, waiting for his first timed run, or competitive run of the day. Simon Braithwaite in the Ford Escort RS 1600 with the 1975cc engine under the bonnet. And just getting him lined up on the start line. I think he is lined up. The revs rise, he waits for the green light, and away he goes, just struggling a little bit with traction off the line, but gets it away, and he's up to 64 miles an hour as he goes under bridge. He's just catching the dust a little bit, that absorbent powder that's been put down. He's obviously trying to stay as clear as he can. A little bit of understeer there through the Torres. On he continues into Pardon now, and to that left hand, and then powers it away from there. Gets a bit more dust as he goes into the S's as we look back to the start line, and away goes number 68, Andrew Kearney, in the Hillman Imp 1020cc. This one, Imps, of course, was sold as 875 and a few 998s, the Imp Sports. This one just being pushed out that little bit to 1020cc. The rear-engined machines, built to rival the Mini, but never quite managed that. There's some issues over reliability, and I speak from a bit of experience because my first ever car was a Hillman Imp. So he goes through the S's on the line and just getting away there. It's the Fiat Abarth 850 of Peter Hall, car number 70. Once again, like the Imp, rear-engined, of course. And the Abarth then heading up towards the Torres. Fairly sedate under the bridge there, but around Torres it goes. A lovely looking machine. It's in great condition. Into Pardon, and goes Peter Hall, and on the line now is number 71 getting away now. Nick Stevens in the Ginetta G4 1700cc machine. I suspect that will be a Ford engine of some description. Ginetta, who've been around since 1958, initially building fiberglass bodies for cars and then building whole cars. And he gets around, just a little bit of a twitch as he comes out of Torres there, on into through the left hander up the hill towards the S's, then goes up to G4 Ginetta as we wait for the next machine onto the line, which is one of the MGBs. It's the MGB Roadster on the line at the moment. That's car number 72, Charles Bolton, 1840cc, the B series motor under the bonnet, of course, of the MGB, built right up until 1980. He gets away, goes under the bridge. Speed of 54 miles an hour then for the MGB as he comes into, or as he went under the bridge, he's now into Torres. This one of the earlier MGBs, which if it had bumpers would have chrome bumpers, as opposed to the rubber bumpers that the later machines had to satisfy American safety regulations. Another MGB, again 1840cc, this time it's number 73, Steve Fenner in this car, sporting the soft top. Both the MGBs we've seen so far, of course, the Roadster version, convertible. And this one, a left-hand drive machine, in fact, going into Pardon now, as we have one of the MGB GTs, the hard-topped version of the MGB, running a slightly bored out 1950cc motor. Number 74 is Brian Ashley, and away he goes. Best so far on handicap, and not overall in fact, but on handicap it's Steve Fenner, number 73, who's got the best time so far. 75 Mike Fisher in his MGB Roadster sits on the line and gets away. Just a slight squeal of tyres as he heads away. So I say Steve Fenner best on handicap. Fastest time so far with a 49.12 is Nick Stevens, number 71. Nick in the Ginetta G4, who has set the fastest time, but not bettering his, or not getting as close to his handicap time as Steve Fenner has managed. So it is Mike Fisher then going around Pardon and heading to the S's as on the line. It's the Porsche 911, number 76, Richard Jones. It's a 3-litre version of the air-cooled rear-engined machine. And not surprisingly, rather more rapid getaway, 62 miles an hour under the bridge. They are challenging machines to drive, of course, with all the weight hanging out over the back axle, but plenty of power as well. So it goes around, once again kicking up the dust. And away goes the next of the 911s, and this is Josh Sadler, a man who's synonymous with Porsches, really, driving an RS 3-litre replica. The 3.5-litre engine under the bonnet. Josh Sadler just marginally slower under the bridge at 60 miles an hour. It's really looking fabulous. The original RS 3 litres, of course, attracting phenomenal prices these days. But Josh knows how to handle a 911, that's for sure. From German machinery to back to British for the next one, because it's the Reliant Scimitar Coupe, slightly unusual version or rarer version of the Scimitar than the normal sort of hatchback style. That's Roger Beard, number 78, with the 3-litre Ford engine under the bonnet. And the Webasto style sunroof on top. Saying that the Coupe is the rarer version of the Reliant Scimitar. We've got another one on the line now, and that's number 79, Terence Cox. So how does he compare with Roger Beard in a similar car? A little bit slower off the line as he goes under the bridge. His speed 1 mile an hour quicker with a 53 miles an hour against the 52 of Roger Beard, heading on into Ettores. Lovely looking cars, and the Scimitar, the chosen car of Princess Anne, I seem to recall at one time. And yet another Scimitar Coupe is on the line. This is number 80, Ian Steinburn, who gets away now. And slightly quicker off the line, but going under the bridge at a slightly slower 50 miles an hour. Looks like the absorbent material is having the desired effect. Nobody seems to be having too much of a problem with it as they go through up the hill. As away goes the Lotus Elan, number 81, the S1 GTS version of Stephen Akers with the 1500 twin-cam engine under the bonnet. Car, of course, dating back to the early 60s, glass fibre body, one of the design brainchild of Colin Chapman at Lotus. So now we move on to the sports racing cars. Pre-1977, the first of those on the hill is Martin Jones in the Alva Mark 7. Mark 7, I think, was probably the most successful of the Alvas that was built. Alva, of course, coming from the French, Alva, she goes. And that car then around already, and this will be a rapid climb up the hill as away goes the next car. That's 91, Peter Thurston in the Mallet Mark IV U2. Mallet was, Arthur Mallet was the man who originally designed these front-engined sports racing cars. all the U2, because U2 could go motor racing in one of these. And this one of the very early Malak U2s, in fact just a Mark 4. Then they got to Mark 20 something. Slightly newer is the Mark 11 of Phil Fisher, number 92, 1700cc engine under the bonnet. Just looking at the overall, or rather the handicap results of the sports cars pre-1977, with all those cars now up the hill. It's still Steve Fenner who tops the times on handicap. Well, the quickest up the hill was Josh Sadler with a 49 seconds exactly, but he misses out on handicap by about a third of a second. We're into the single seaters now, the racing cars pre-1977. It's Mike Bainbridge in the Ensign LNF3. LN, Brian Lewis is the L, who was the money man, I think, behind Ensign when they first started, and N. Monan, the man who had a famous name in motorsport, man who designed these Formula 3 cars. Would have run as 1600s back in the day when they were new. Off the line now goes Dennis Bissell in the Buckler Ballamy Special. Buckler cars based in Reading. Started in 1947, went on to 62, and they produced about 400 cars in that time. CDF Buckler was the man who founded it. Leslie Ballamy, motor engineer, some people believe is a major inspiration, as there's problems by the looks of it for the Buckler Ballamy. He's stopped coming out of Pardon. But yeah, some people crediting Leslie Ballamy with inspiring some of Colin Chapman's design ideas, particularly things like independent front suspension. So while the Buckler Ballamy is dealt with, Dennis Bissell had mechanical problems by the looks of it as he came out of Pardon. Let's go back to those results once again. So as I say, it was Steve Fenner quickest on handicap, ahead of Josh Sadler. The difference there, 2.65 seconds to the handicap time for Steve Fenner, 3 seconds exactly for Josh Sadler, 3.27 seconds for Charles Bolton. Then it is number 76 Richard Jones with a 4.02 second difference. Roger Beard 4.35, and completing the top half dozen 74 Brian Ashley. In the sports racing cars, Phil Fisher was best on handicap, car number 92. The Malak Mark 11. Best overall, fastest time of the 3 cars in the class was 91 Peter Thurston in the Malak Mark 4 with a 49.89, but that leaves him 5.25 seconds over handicap. And then in third place it's number 90 Martin Jones. Martin in the Elva Mark 7. Just the one car, of course, having gone up the hill so far in the racing cars. Pre-1977 racing cars in the Henny Cider Classic Speed Championship. And that was Mike Bainbridge, who did a 48.10, that's 3.32 over his handicap time. And Dennis Bissell just making his way back down the hill now after the problems that he experienced. And it's Les Buck who's on the start line in the Pringett Mistral. There were about, I think it was 17 of these cars built as Formula Ford machines originally back in the late 1960s. and 10 of those were the Mark 11 machine. Would that be Mark 2 with 2 1s? I'm not quite sure, but they were enjoyed some success with some names that were big names at the time in Formula Ford, including Dave Morgan, Bev Bond and Sid Fox driving these cars as the 102 machine of Lesbach gets off the line then. That 1600cc Pringate Mistral under the bridge at 56 miles an hour, a little single seater. And the Tories then. Sort of low bodywork, allowing you to see allowing you to see the driver at work as he goes out of Arden and on into the S's, and off the line goes Carol Nichols, number 104 in the Nike Mark IV. 10 of these cars were built back in 1969. Again, built for Formula Ford, I believe. On the line now, it's 105 David Owen in the Merlin. Merlin race cars were built from 1960 to 79 by Colchester Racing Developments. And this car was in fact built in 68, the Mark 11, so David Owen there, 1600cc engine behind him. Interesting looking car and an interesting character behind the wheel going off the line now, because that is Jeremy Rivers Fletcher in the Triumph Special, the 2.5 litre engine. In fact, it's the straight 6 engine out of a Triumph GT6, and it has a Reliance scimitar back axle in it, all built to look like a classic front engine race car, but built by Jeremy. And Jeremy, the son of a great character in hill climbing who was known purely as Rivers Fletcher in the day, and Jeremy keeping up the family tradition. His father, Rivers Fletcher, actually began his racing career at the age of 15 as a racing mechanic for Malcolm Campbell at Brooklands. Away now has gone Andy Tippett in the the Brabham BT30X with the 3.5 litre Buick V8 powering it. That the engine that was licensed to Rover to become their V8 3.5 litre engine. Powered the P6s and the SD1s and various Rover machines over the years. Then went on into other cars such as TVRs. And Tim Moggy Rossi in the Renault Twingo 1600cc machine next off. Car number 110 making his way as we move into the all-comers Bugatti Owners Club all-comers, their saloon category. I'm just waiting for the adjusted times, and it looks very much as if it's Jeremy Rivers Fletcher who on handicap has gone into the lead of the Class M2 for the P77 racing cars. Quickest time overall was Mike Bainbridge car 100, the Ensign RNF3 with a 48.10, but now it's Julian Harbour on his way up the hill in the 1340cc Mini Clubman, car number 111. On the line now, the Hillman Imp 113, the 998cc version of Mark Maynard. And away he goes, giving away some cc, of course, the Mini that went up ahead of him. A very different setup. Front engine, front wheel drive for the Mini, rear engine, rear wheel drive for the Imp. It's the Twingo on handicap that at the moment leads after just 2 cars in this class going up the hill. As we see the BMW Mini next off the line, and that's Charlotte Thurston in the Mini Cooper S. 1600cc machine, of course. As around Barton goes the Mini. On the line now, it's the Renault Clio 2-litre machine of David Garnett, number 115. Just about to get off the line, away goes David. It's Mark Maynard now who has moved into the lead of the class on handicap. That's the Hillman Imp, 113. 114 Charlotte Thurston moves into second place ahead of Tom Rossi and Julian Harbour. So the Clio goes around that left-hand hairpin. On the line is car number 117, and that's Jez Kurzweil in the 1275 Mini. So away goes Jez. Under the bridge. To 42 miles an hour. So off the line now then, we've had a 2-litre Subaru Impreza. This is the 2.5-litre version, a later machine. And that is 118 Tim Dennis in the STI Impreza. The car that was so hugely successful, of course, in rallying, run by ProDrive. At least by 2 legendary British drivers, Colin McRae and Richard Burns. And off the line now, Noor Ali, number 120 in the 1600cc Mazda Mx-5. A little bit tail happy out of Aurelia, but not too much of a problem as he comes up towards Harden. On the line now, the car with truly iconic livery in the classic Gulf colours. It is 121 Ross Stone in the Porsche 911 RS 3-litre machine. Those colours, of course, that livery known throughout the motorsport world. The Gulf Oil Company sponsoring so many cars, GT40s, Porsches among them, obviously. To success at events like Le Mans as it comes into Pardon. Away now goes Michael Thompson, 125 in the Honda S2000. S2000, lovely, again, the traditional front engine wheel-drive sports car like the MX-5, but not in such plentiful supply, and that reflected, in fact, by the prices that used ones fetch these days. But it is a lovely machine, high revving Honda engine under the bonnet. It looks to be going well in the hands of Michael Thompson as he goes around Pardon. And off the line goes the Lotus Elise S1, of Austin Weltman, 127, with the 1800cc engine. Once again, mid-engined configuration on the Elise Cross. Into the leading class on handicap has gone Tim Dennis in the Subaru Impreza. That's the previous class across the saloons. It's Tim Dennis who leads after one run from 113 Mark Maynard, and then it's 114 Charlotte Thurston, 110 Tim Mogirossi, then it's Jez Kurzweil 117 and 115 David Garnett. Peter Taylor goes off the line in his 2-litre Mazda Mx-5. Just 3 times in so far for this class, the sports class, and it's 125 Michael Thompson in the Honda S2000, who currently leads on handicap and also has done the quickest time overall at this stage. As the MX-5 goes around the Pardon on the line now, a legend of hill climbing. It's David Franklin in his Mercedes-Benz SLK 350, probably one of the most successful hill climb drivers of all time. David from Bristol started back in 1965 in his standard Hillman Imp, moved on to some rather more powerful machinery, including Can-Am cars, and is the only person ever to have won the British Sprint Championship and the British Hill Climb Championship in the same year. David Franklin then in that SLK, and still clearly, despite the years he's been at it, knowing how to pedal a car, going up the hill then 129. Robert Orford off the line now in his MGB Roadster with the bored out engine, 1950cc, and the bonnet. The 1380cc MG Midget, number 131, Peter Clark leaving the line now. We just looked to see the times, and at the moment it is 128 Peter Taylor in his Mazda Mx-5 that leads the class, bettering his handicap time by 0.02 of a second. Behind him is Michael Thompson, 125, and then 120 Noor Ali. Midget goes around and away from into the S's. On the line, 132, Frank Ashley in the glorious looking MG M-Type, just 847 cc's under the bonnet for that beautiful looking M-Type. He goes into a Tories and pushing as hard as he can, of course, with those skinny vintage tyres and just that small engine powering him up into Pardon now, and he goes around there on up the hill as a slightly newer, I think, but still classic or historic MG. It's the MGTC 133 of Dave Morris, who goes off the line next. Still Peter Taylor leading the class on handicap. Fastest time so far overall is a 51.93 from Michael Thompson. In the Honda S2000 as the Morgan plus 8, the 5-litre engine. The 134 Mike Meredith gets away. As I say, Michael Thompson the quickest time, but on handicap in 3rd place behind 131 Peter Clark in the MG Midget. As that handful of Morgan makes its way around. Big lockup and off at the Pardon. Now, I think this was the same car that went off at Ettores this morning, but he's off at Pardon now, and the red flags go off as he's reached it on the outside of the hairpin by the looks of it. So red flags and another short delay as we just look back at the times then. So as I say, it's Peter Taylor on handicap who leads at the moment in the Mazda Mx-5. Second in this sports category of the Bugatti Owners Club All-Comers, it's 131 Peter Clark in the MG Midget. In third place then 125 Michael Thompson in the Honda S2000. Then it's 133 Dave Morris in the MGTC, and behind Dave Morris 120 Noor Ali. Noor Ali is in the Mazda MX-5 again, and then rounding off the top half dozen 130 Robert Alford in the MGB Roadster. So as I say, just a little bit of a delay by the looks of it as we wait for the Morgan to be recovered. So a little bit more work for the marshals to do up there at Pardon at the hairpin, the left-hand hairpin, as our Morgan 8 Mike Meredith is back out onto the track, and just some sweeping to be done to clear away the gravel that he's pulled back out with him, but that's just a little bit over enthusiastic into that hairpin, and the car is going straight on into the gravel that's there to stop it going too far and doing too much damage. It's been pulled out by one of the recovery vehicles and should be on the move fairly shortly, and then we can get the action back underway. Waiting patiently on the start line at the moment, it's 136 Robert Lancaster Gay in the Porsche 996 GT3. So that will be the next car that we should see going up the hill. Still to come, across the single-seaters, the racing cars in the Bugatti Owners Club All-Comers, and the competitors in the Ferrari Hill Climb Championship, and then the second runs for everybody coming after that. So say the marshals just clearing up any loose gravel and so on that's been pulled up. They're clearing the tyres and so on the Morgan as well, so that it doesn't drag anything any further on the track. And Mike Meredith then doing a little bit of reversing, and he will be coming back down the hill after a failed first run, unfortunately. In fact, it wasn't this Morgan but another Morgan that went off. I think it must have been Nick Bolton 135 who went off this morning at Ettore, so doing Mike Moret a little bit of a disservice earlier, but Mike finding the limits of adhesion in that immensely powerful and immensely modified as well Morgan 8. Sticking to the grass so that he doesn't drop too much debris onto the track, and he's going to head back to the paddock, and hopefully we'll see him back out on a more successful second run. So Robert Lancaster Gay dropping back off the start line so that he can warm his tyres up once again before he takes his run. Still the last bits of sweeping being done there at Pardon by the marshals, but hopefully they will have that completed very, very quickly and we can get things back underway. Keeping our marshals hard at work today, and they always do a sterling job. Don't forget there's more of the same to come tomorrow for you from Prescott, organised by Bugatti Owners Club, with all the cars participating today running again tomorrow, and that will be once again live streamed on YouTube and Facebook. So don't forget to make sure that your fellow hill climb enthusiasts know all about it, and they can watch. If they haven't been able to watch today's action, then hopefully they can watch tomorrow's. Meanwhile, back up onto the line then comes car number 136, Robert Lancaster Gay, in that GT3, the 996 iteration of the rear-engined, rear-wheel drive Porsche. He's all set. I think we're all set, and he should be getting the green light to begin his run any moment now. Now start to rise then, and away he goes. Glorious sound of that Porsche Boxster engine. And already he is into Ettore's. Cleanly around that right-hander, runs up towards Pardon. And he seems to come into there pretty rapidly, but no problems for him. He's around and into the S's, and there's another GT3 on the line. It's Simon Tarling, car 137, in pretty much the identical car other than the colour, and only 2/10 separating them as they that first timing point, but quicker speed under the bridge for Simon Tarling with that 64 miles an hour. He's around Ettore's. As on the line now is Phil James, 138 in the Porsche Cayman. Phil, who was competing the last couple of years on hill climbs in a John Cooper Works Mini, opted to run this Cayman this year. Hasn't had too much chance to try it out up to now, of course, courtesy of the pandemic, but looks like he's enjoying himself in it at the moment. Phil, long-time motorsport competitor, many years a very successful road rally driver in South Wales where he lives. He comes into Pardon and away, and that looks a pretty good run so far as the Westfield SE1 number 140 Jerry Neary gets away from the line. Car number 140 at open top Westfield. again drawing its influences from the Lotus 7. 2.1 litre engine under the cover for this one. In fact, it's a 2 litre, I think, for that one. It's a 2.1 for John Bradshaw, who's on the line at the moment, car 141 in the SEIW version of the Westfield. Away he goes. Now let's see how he compares. He's significantly quicker off the line than me, and 5 miles an hour quicker under the bridge as well. So good first part of the hill. And making an appearance at its spiritual home in the UK, it is now the Bugatti T49 of Brian Fiddler. He makes his way away gracefully from the line. We've got a Type 51 to come out later on as well, but this is the Type 49. Which, if memory serves me well, and it's really ought to at the home Bugatti Owners Club, dates back to about 1935, I believe. And he is through pardon. As off the line, 124. It's another Ginetta, a very different looking one this time though to the one we saw earlier. It's the G16 of Edward Tyack, car number 124, with a 2 litre motor powering that sports racing car. On the line now, going away, it is the Renault Twingo, Renault Sport Twingo 133 of Richard Plough, 710, car with the 1600 engine, and a very small car, but plenty of power in that 1600. I was a little bit late with the Type 49, I think, because the Type 51 was already being built in 1931, but we'll come back to that in a moment, as it's now the Renault Clio's 182 of Ian Richards, 715, who heads away. Somewhat unusual looking vehicle on the line now. It's Dominic Hendell in the Lancia Aurelia. Now you probably expect when I say Lancia Aurelia to see a classic saloon car there, but this a single seater that was built out in Italy back in the mid-50s using the Aurelia V6 engine, and I think the Aurelia floor pan, hence the long wheelbase as well. And it's a strange looking car, but it's nice to see something so different going up the hill here at Prescott. That's Dominic Hendell, number 126. Around the hairpin now into the S's. As off the line goes Emma Ali in the Mazda Mx-5, that's 1600cc, the smallest engined version of the MX-5 car, 720. Reilly, as I say, in the MX-5, and then it is what I believe will be the last of the sports cars in the Bugatti Owners Club all-comers category, as Emma comes out of Vittoria and on up the hill. It is the Golf liveried Porsche 911 RS, being driven this time by Chris Stone, car number 71. He goes off the line. we will be moving on to the racing cars in just a moment, but it's still Peter Taylor who leads on handicap in the sports category, car number 128, ahead of Peter Clark, number 131, and 125 Michael Thompson, but still a few times to come in. So we can't hand out the plaudits too soon. And it is the ERA R4D that is on the line now, the car being driven by Nicholas Topless. This was the only ERA to be given a D designation. It began as an R4B in 1935, then it was converted to a C-type, and then in 38 it was given a completely new boxed frame, and it became the R4D, fitted with a Zolla supercharger, and driven by the likes of Raymond Mays, who used it at hill clubs including Prescott, as well as Chelsea Walsh and others, Brighton Sprint and so on, and on the Brooklands Mountain Circuit. And then continued after the war to be used by Raymond Mays. Eventually got into the hands of Ron Flockhart, and then Ken Wharton, who is a huge name in hill climbing history, who campaigned this car and jointly won the 1955 Hill Climb Championship in it with Tony Marsh sharing in the honours. Well, a much more modern machine is the Force PC 1300 being driven by Richard Alexander. Force building cars specifically for speed events and having some significant success with them as well. And certainly very rapidly up the hill. On the line behind Richard is Amanda George in the Chevron B19. Originally powered by 1790 Cosworth FVC engine, and finished second in the 1971 European 2-litre Sports Car Championship. Many of the B19s that were built, they were updated to B21 specification when that car came out. Robert Penrose on the line then with the OMS, the CF04 with a 998cc engine. OMS was set up by Lynn and Steve Owen back in 1985. So it looks like then after one run it is Peter Taylor who leads the way in the sports car category from Peter Clark and Michael Thompson. At the moment in the racing cars, just 4 times in currently, but bettering his handicap by 1.55 seconds. It is Nicholas Topless, as off the line goes Kevin Creven in the Swallow DR14 2-litre engine car, originally built for racing in Formula 3. So it is actually the ERA R4D which currently leads on handicap. Quite right too. Clive Austin coming up the line in the Empire Wraith, again Empire, a company which was set up to build cars really specifically for hill climbing, set up by Bill Chaplin, who himself was a successful hill climber, but quite often on trikes and motorbikes rather than in cars, but then set up the company Empire to build these cars, largely I think powered by motorcycle engines. He previously set up Force racing cars, but then moved on to Empire, as away goes that Empire Wraith. That looks rapid indeed as he kicks up the dust and powers his way around Ettore. He's on up to Pardon, into Pardon, and again just like on rails as he goes round there and then into the S's. A good looking run there for Clive Austin as Edmund Burgess gets away in the Bugatti Type 51. The 51 first appeared as a nice number in 1931, powered by a twin overhead cam supercharged 2.3 litre engine. It wasn't the most successful of Bugattis, if we're honest about it. It did win the 1931 French Grand Prix. Another ERA on the line now. This one, the B-type of Ben Fiddler, car 156. English Racing Automobiles, of course, established by Raymond Mays before the Second World War. After the Second World War, he went on to be heavily involved with BRM, British Racing Motors. Links him across to Rivers Fletcher, who was involved with BRM. As I say, it's Jeremy Rivers Fletcher here competing today. Next up, it's Lynn Gilbert in another OMS. This one, the OMS Hornet, with a 599cc motorcycle engine, which you can hear screaming its way up the hill now. Popular way of getting in or competing in single seaters these days in the motorcycle engine machines with their high revving engines, and of course their low weight as well. Another machine designed to run motorcycle engines is the one that's just gone off the line, the DJ Firehawk of Lindsay Summers 702, with this one with a 1070cc engine powering it. Still on handicap, it is Nicholas Topless who leads the class in this opening run, but still plenty more single seaters to come, including some of our quickest drivers here this weekend. As through the S's goes Lindsay Summers, and on the line it is a 163, and that is Pete Tatum, once again an OMS. This is an OMS 25. Pete Tatum then in the OMS 25, this one with a 1300cc engine behind the driver, heads off the line. Heads up towards Barton, to the left-hander now. As on the line, it's another Empire. It's the Empire Evo number 164 of Jason Tunnicliffe with a 998cc motor behind the driver this time. Away he goes. Good start. 80 miles an hour under the bridge, what compares to 87 under the bridge for Pete Tatum. Wakeham now, 165 on the line in the OMS CF96 with a 999cc engine powering it. It's a fair bit of tyre squeal there for a single seater, but away he goes. I believe third fastest in practice, number 12 Einan Price in the Force TA with a 1585cc engine. And away goes Einan. then out of Bugattis up into and out of there up towards the Essex goes Einan Price. 94 miles an hour under the bridge for Einan as Robert Kenrick gets underway in the GWR Raptor. A little bit of popping and banging from the Raptor as he went away. And it matches the time, the speed of Einan Price under the bridge at 94 miles an hour. It's around Victoria. Good looking clean run for Robert Kenrick in that GWR Raptor. So he goes out of our view and we wait for the next car to come up onto the line, and that should be, by the looks of it, number 7, Sean Gould. Sean, son of David Gould, himself a successful hill climber who set up the Gould racing car business, and I think they've won something like 18 British hill climb titles with Gould cars in the hands of different people. Chris Kramer, who was one of the big names of in the past of hill climbing, still does some driver coaching, I think, in hill climbing, was the first person to win a championship in a Gould. But now it's Sean who's holding up family honours. He gets away. He was quickest in practice. How can he do in this first run? 98 miles an hour under the bridge. Already into a Tories. How is it out of there? Just a little bit of a twitch as he exits. Left hand, the right hander rather, into the left hander now. That pardon powers it on into the S's already, and this looks like a quick run from Sean. But what about on handicap? Well, we'll wait for that time to appear. The Gould there, a GR59JB with a 4-litre engine powering it. His time hasn't appeared yet, but just looking, in fact, he shows up with a 37.58. He's down in 6th place on handicap. Still, it's the ERA that leads the way. 142 from 154 Clive Austin in the Empire Wraith, and then 164 Jason Tunnicliffe in the Empire Evo. The Force PC 750 of Paul Alexander gets away, this one with a 1300cc engine. Not quite the same sorts of speeds under the bridge, 65 miles an hour compared to the 98 of Sean Gould. Goes around, pardon, as we look down at the start line and see 7:51. Richard George in the chevron of B19. Chevron going up the hill once again. So that, lovely looking sports car. So reminiscent of a certain era of sports car racing. Comes around then towards the S's as off the line goes 752 Bob Penrose in the OMS CF08. That's the 998cc powered machine. Robert Penrose went up earlier in that car as 152. Now it's Bob Penrose as 952. Quickest time up the hill so far, unsurprisingly, is Sean Gould, as Jonathan Evans goes off the line in the Swallow DR14. So Sean Gould doing a 35.41, but as I say, on handicap, only good enough to put him in 6th place. So Sean Gould doing a 37.58. His handicap times are 35.41. Next quickest, 39.55 is Einan Price, but he's 1 place above Sean on handicap. Chris Howard Harris now in the OMS Hornet going up the hill, car number 757. Just looking at it. Yeah, no, I was just wondering, car number 2, second quickest overall is this morning in practice. And that is Alex Summers in the DJ Firehawk, who is on the line now. The last of the racing cars in the Bugatti Owners Club All-Comers category. And away goes Alex then. 95 miles an hour under the bridge, into a Tories, and it's again almost as if it was on rails, the way it goes around there, quite remarkable. He goes to the S's. If I'm allowed to have a favourite car of the day, well, this is it, because on the start line now it's 171 John Goodwin in his short wheelbase 250 GT Ferrari. I followed this car as John drove it in on the road this morning. Absolutely glorious machine. They were built for the 250 series, which included some sports cars, some Grand Tourers, built from 1952 to 1964, and they used the 3-litre Colombo V12 engine until they were ultimately replaced by the 275 and 330 machines. He goes around Pardon now, and it just looks so wonderful going around there. Next up should be 172 Pauline Goodwin in the Ferrari 328. The 328 built between 1986 and 89. It was a development of the wonderful Ferrari 308, which was built with both steel and fiberglass bodies, the 308. This is the 328 with the 3.2 litre engine, Fiat engine. The bonnet goes behind the driver, it's a bit more accurate. Next up it will be 173 Peter Rogerson in the Ferrari 360 Modena F1. The 360, the first road car to be offered with the F1 style flappy paddle gear change anywhere in the world. It replaced the 355 in 2000. They put them through to 2004. Next up then, Nick Taylor in the 430 Coupe Ferrari, and this is a car that was built between 2005 and 2009 until when they replaced it with the 458. But very smartly off the line there for Nick Taylor. He's on the bridge at 62 miles an hour. Is next up, 176 in the 360 Spider. The 360, the car that replaced the 355 for Ferrari. And away he goes. As onto the line now then comes car number 20 from one of the earlier categories, and this is the car of Baron Williamovsky. Well, this is the first then of the second runs by the looks of it, and confirmation, yes it is. We're not going to get a break between runs. Baron Williamovsky then in the BMW E30 318 IS, the 1.8 litre machine. Engine. Ben was fourth on the handicap after the first run, so can he improve on that? We will see in less than a minute as Chris D comes on the line, car number 21 in the Austin Mini 1340cc machine, with that characteristic black roof that was so popular on Minis of the day. Absolutely immaculate, that Mini. It's 22 Will Goff in the Ford Sierra Cosworth. It looks remarkably like an Alfa Romeo to me. Will was 5th after the first run. Chris D incidentally was 6th after run 1. Ben Williamowski, meanwhile, not able to better his first run. He did a 56.58 in run 1. He's done a 56.90 in run 2. As the Alpha gets away, say Will Goff behind the wheel, and Christie also not improving on run 1. 56.41 is followed by a 56.84. As that beautiful looking Alfa Romeo heads up the hill into really tricky left-hand hairpin. It's car number 23 on the line. That's Stephen Sims in the Renault Clio Sport 160.
Attention drivers, attention squad. Could I just give you all...
Stephen, who was in 7th place after the first run, was around Ettore. And we get a time for Will Goff, and again not able to improve on his first run time, having done a 57.31, can only manage a 61.90 on his second run. Away now is Sam Williamowski in the E30 318i. He heads into Ettore's. Slow out of, I thought you might have a problem then, but I don't think so now. You slow out of pardon. As James Dockery gets away in the Subaru STI 2000. James, who led on handicap and also set the quickest time of the first runs. Stephen Sims has managed to improve his time from a 57.85 to a 57.14, moves up into 6th spot after the second run. So James Dockery then into on his time for the first run, 53.54. Can he improve on that as the MG ZR of Jamie Stevens, number 43, gets underway? He was 3rd on handicap after the first run. So as I say, it's a 53.54 that James Dockery is looking to better. I can't quite do it, a 53.66, but looking, I think, fairly safe for the class win. Meanwhile, we move to the sports cars, and it is Eamon Pat Cooper who heads away in his Austin Healey Sprite, first of the sports cars. We're just waiting for one more time from the saloons, and that is Jamie Stevens. And Jamie Stevens has just done a better time, a 55.64 was his first run time. He's just done a 54.83 and has moved up to 2nd place on handicap. So it's first James Dockery, number 25, second Jamie Stevens, number 43, and in 3rd place it's 24 Sam Williamowski, then number 20 Ben Williamowski, as Colin Davis, number 31, gets underway in the Caterham Road Sport. So just the one position change, I think, in that, and that was Jamie Stevenson moving up from 3rd up into 2nd position. Eamon Cooper improving his time from a 60.37 to a 59.19, and that I think has moved up just to one place, but still in the lower reaches of the sports category. Peter J. Neal in his Mark 1 Healy Sprite heads away up the hill, another of the frog-eyed machines. As onto the line comes Dominic Morland in the Caterham Supersports 1600. It was Paul Renison who led the class after the first run, number 45 from 37 Rob Gutteridge and 731 Sarah Davis. Peter Neal goes up towards the S's. Off the line now goes Dominic Morland in the Caterham Supersports. Number 35 now on the start line, David Rose in the Lotus Elan, the 1600 twin cam engine under the bonnet. Eamon Cooper, the only person to have improved their time on the second run at the moment. So Colin Davis a tenth of a second slower on his second run, 54.81 and a 54.91. And Peter Neal also about 7 tenths slower on his second run, 57.71, 58.43. So on the line at the moment, 36 Kenneth Williamson in the Lotus Elise S160. Dominic Morland has just managed to knock a second off his first run time. He did a 57.43 on the first run. He's just done a 56.40 on the second run. So good performance there for Dominic Morland in the Caterham Supersport. First of our MX-5s now on the line. Rob Gutteridge, number 37. Who was second on handicap after the first run. Away now goes Steve Perry, number 38 in his 1.8 litre Mazda Mx-5. Paul Farrow's sitting on the line at the moment. He was in 11th place in class, number 39 as say, in the MX-5 1.8, 11th in class after the first run. Can he break into the top 10, I wonder, on this second run? Away he goes now. Still just a couple of cars who have managed to improve their times on these second runs. Steve Perry improving his time from a 62.32 to 61.00 on that run. So that should have moved him up a few places. He's now in, I think, 9th position in class after that run. Steve Reilly on the way up the hill now, number 40 in his MX-5. And the hard-topped MX-5 2-litre version, number 41 of John Wadsworth, gets underway now. He was down in about 10th place, or has been pushed down to 10th place, I think, after Steve Perry's second run. So can he get a position or two back, which you'll see shortly. Next up will be John White in the MGTF, a 1.8 litre machine, of course, but mid-engined as opposed to the front-engined MX-5s. Away goes the number 42 car of John White. As we continue looking at times, and still no time showing for John Wadsworth at the moment. So John Wadsworth not able to improve. In fact, he goes down from a 58.06 on the first run to a 63.20 on his second run. So obviously some sort of problem. Over 5 seconds dropped on that second run for him, as Steve Cooper gets off the line, car number 44 in the 924 Turbo Porsche. So 4 cars now, no, in fact 3 cars, pardon me, who have improved on the second one. Steve Perry, Dominic Morland and Ian Cooper. Those are 3 cars. Here goes the 944 S2 Porsche of Paul Renison, car number 45. Paul, who led after the first run, not fastest overall, that was David Rose, but fastest, best improved time. And so Paul Renison with that best improvement of handicap time, leading after the first run. As away goes number 47, Zoe Shearman in the Toyota MR2. Zoe was in 5th place after the opening run. So can she improve on that in the Toyota? So Paul Renison not able to improve on his time, still leads at the moment with a 54.72 in his first run. He did a 55.03 on his second run. Second of the Toyota MR2s gets underway, that's number 48, Martin Rawson. So probably the biggest threat to Paul Renison for the class win is Sarah Davis, who was lying 3rd after the first runs in the 731 machine. As Richard Durant gets away in the Triumph TR4A. TR4A, as I say, with the independent rear suspension that singles it out from the TR4 before it. As John Tewson pulls his Austin Healey Frog-Eyed Sprite, number 730, off the line. He was down in something like 12th place after first run. Still, those 3 cars managing to improve their time on the second run. Sarah Davis, who is in third place after the first run, 7:31. In the Caterham Road Sport 1600, gets off the line. She would need to improve her time by something like 0.6 of a second to take the lead. She did a 54.80 on the first run, so she needs to do, in fact I think a 54.18 would give her the lead. John Tewson managing to knock very nearly half a second off his time. He did a 58.55 on the second run compared to his 59.03 on run 1, and that's just pulled him into the top 10. In fact, as we switch now to the pre-77 saloon cars in the Henny Cider Classic Speed Championship, and it is indeed Mike Henny who's out there, was on the line. In fact, out there is the Cortina, I believe. We'll pick that up in a moment. No, Mike Henny is showing he has an offer in the 2000 GTV because he's out there in the Lotus Cortina Mark 1. And the second of the Alphas, or what should be the second of the Alphas, the Bellina 1750 of Philip Stade and number 61, also out there. And Sarah Davis not able to improve her time, so the top three remains 45 Paul Renison taking class honours in the Porsche 944 as the Mini 1430cc Mini of Andy Clark number 62 gets over the line. In second place in the sports category, number 37 is Rob Gutteridge in the Mx-5, and in third place it's 731 Sarah Davis in the Caterham Road Sports. So it is 51 Philip Stader who led this category, the Henny Cider Classic category. After the first runs for the pre-77 saloon cars, as Mark Clark gets away in his 1460cc Austin Mini. So Philip Stader leading, wasn't able to improve on his second run, a 54.68 compared to his 53.65. Mike Henny, meanwhile, has made a big improvement, a 60.14 on the first run, and now a 55.41 on the second run. Had moved him into third. He's just dropped to fourth though, because Andy Clark has improved on his time as well. Goes from 57.35 to 56.69, and that moves Andy Clark up into second place in his Mini. Still Philip Stader leading the way, but there's nothing he can do now. He's, in fact, on handicap, he's just 0.08 of a second ahead of Andy Clark. Matt Clark takes the lead in the category on handicap. He goes from a 51.99 on run 1, run 2 a 50.75, puts Matt Clark on number 63 into the class lead in his Mini, and demotes 61 Philip Stader to second place. Dave Parr rather is out there at the moment in the Anglia. Martin Saunders, number 66 in the Escort Mark 1, and the Escort RS 1600 Mark 1 of Simon Braithwaite, number 67, is on the line. Dave Parr improving on his time, but he moves up. In fact, he does a 59.98 on run 1 and a 58.10 on run 2. So lots of improvements being made in this pre-77 saloon car category of the Henny Cider Classic Speed Championship. Certainly far more than was the case amongst the sports cars in the New Barn RS Interclub Licence Championship. 68 coming up to the line is Andy Kearney. Simon Braithwaite is on his way in the RS 1600. So just one car in the category that hasn't improved its time as the red flag comes out. And I think that's probably just some debris on the track, so hopefully it won't take too long to clear. But the only driver not to have improved his time is the erstwhile leader, number 61, Philip Stade, who is now down into second place and down into third place as we speak, because Simon Braithwaite, number 67, has just improved on his time in the RS 1600, and he has just done a 50.45 compared to a 52.20 on his first run. That moves him into second place behind Matt Clark and ahead of Philip Stade. So the marshals once again quickly into action, sorting out the displaced traffic cones, and we should be able to get things back underway, I would have thought, very quickly indeed. On the line at the moment it is number 68, and that's Andrew Kearney in the Hillman Imp. And the red flags come in, so we can get this one under way. A G-Reg Hillman Imp, which I think makes it a 1969 machine, if I remember correctly. Just over 50 years old now. He gets that off the line, and up the hill he goes. As Andrew makes his way up the hill, we move on to the 377 sports cars, and first of those to go up the hill will be number 70, Peter Hall, in the Fiat Abarth GT, the 903cc machine. And Andrew Kearney making a big improvement on his time. He goes from a 59.28 in run 1, 55.60 in run 2, and suddenly he finds himself in third place. And the man who led after the first run, Philip Stade, number 61, is now down to fourth. So it is provisionally at least a win for number 63, Matt Clark, in the Mini, as Nick Stevens gets off the line in the Ginetta G4 in the sports car category. So Mark Clark in the Mini takes the saloon, P77 saloon category. 67, Simon Braithwaite in second place in the Escort RS 1600, and Andrew Kearney in the Hillman Imp takes third place. All that, of course, on handicap. I was just trying to work out who was being the quickest overall. In fact, the quickest time overall was 50.45 for Simon Braithwaite, who finishes in second place on handicap, as Charles Bolton heads off the line in the MGB, car number 72. And the first car up the hill in this class, number 70, Peter Hall in that Fiat Abarth, not able to improve on his time. He did a 75.15 on the first run, 75.45 on the second run, but 71 Nick Stevens in the Ginetta G4 making a big improvement with a 53.05 in this run compared to his 54.63 on the first run. He moves into fourth place on handicap as Steve Fenner, number 73, gets away in the MGB. Next up, it will be the MGB GT of Brian Ashley. Charles Bolton putting in an improved time of 56.35 compared to his 59.00 on the first run. To take the lead then, 72 Charles Bolton in the MGB takes the lead on handicap in this pre-77 sports cars category as Brian Ashley gets away in the MGB GT. Onto the line comes number 76 Richard Jones in the Porsche 911, the 3-litre version. Increase the capacity later on, but mid-80s and now it's at 3.2. So on the line then, Richard Jones in that Porsche 911. Steve Fenner has improved his time of 54.04, but still is just in second place. Josh Sadler currently still in third place based on his first time run, and that is Josh Sadler who comes up to the line now. And up to fourth place comes 74 Brian Ashley in the MGB GT with a 58.06, improving on his 58.68 in the first run, so he moves up to fourth spot. Nick Stevens is in fifth spot with his 53.05 compared to a 54.63 on the opening run. So all change once again then in the P77 sports cars as Josh Sadler gets underway. Now he would have to make up something like very nearly 2.5 seconds to take the class lead. How much of that can he knock off his opening time? He certainly looks as if he's pushing hard as he comes out of Vittori. He's on up to Pardon. Into left-hander he goes, neatly around there, powers it away on up towards the S's. He did a time of 52 seconds exactly, but his handicap target is 49 seconds, which is going to take some bettering. Roger Beard is on the line at the moment with the Reliant Scimitar Coupe. He was in seventh, or is currently in 7th place. Josh Sadler takes the lead with a 49.30. His first run was a 52-second run. His second run a 49.30, and so 77 Josh Sadler takes the lead in the class. As Roger Beard goes around Pardon, the similar Reliant Scimitar Coupe, number 79 of Terence Cox gets off the line. Cox was just one place behind Roger Beard after the first run, so can he move ahead of the other Reliant? Or one of the other Reliants, because there's another Reliant on the line at the moment. And again, it's Reliant Scimitar Coupe. This is the one of Ian Steinberg, car number 80. So Roger Beard has just chipped something like 3 seconds off his time, going from a 59.19 on run 1 to a 56.18 on the second run, but that moves him just into 5th place in the class. Terence Cox in the second of the Reliants as Steve Akers gets his Lotus Elan S1 off the line. Terence Cox in the second of the Reliants also improves from 59.93 to 57.40, but he still remains behind Roger Beard. So Roger still the quickest of the Reliant Scimitars. As we wait for time for Ian Steinburn in the third Scimitar. And Ian Steinburn has just jumped up to 5th place ahead of Roger Beard. He did a 62.70 on run 1, a 56.85, so very nearly 6 seconds knocked off his time on that run as the Elva Mark 7 of Martin Jones heads up the hill, car number 90. So we're moving into the sports racing car, still waiting for just a couple of times to come in for the P77 sports cars. is going to be then Josh Sadler, who takes the honours in the P77 sports cars in his Porsche with a time of 49.30. In second place, it is number 76, Richard Jones, in the second of the 911s. And in third place, Charles Bolton, number 72 in the MGB GT. Those are the times on handicap, of course. Away from the line goes Phil Fisher in the Mallet Mark 11. Ahead of him is Peter Thurston in the Mallet Mark 4. And Martin Jones has just smashed his first run time. He did a 58.58 on run 1. He's done a 51.88 to take the lead, only to be immediately demoted by Peter Thurston, who does a 47.21 compared to his 49.89 on the first run. So we just wait for Phil Fisher's time in the sports racing cars, pre-1977. At the moment it's 91, Peter Thurston in the Mallet Mark 4, who leads from Martin Jones, number 90 in the Elva, Mark 7. What can Phil Fisher do? He can take the lead as he answers to that. He did a 52.17 on run 1. On run 2 it's a 49.68. So victory in the class going to the Mark 11 Mallet, number 92 of Phil Fisher, ahead of Peter Thurston, number 91 in the Mallet Mark 4, and number 90 Martin Jones in the Elva Mark 7 takes third place, while Mike Bainbridge is on the hill in the Ensign LNF 3, as is Dennis Bissell in the Buckler Bellamy Special. Bainbridge has just knocked very nearly 3 seconds off his best time with a 45.22, and that compared to a 48.10 on his first run, and that gives him the lead in the race pre-77 racing cars class M2 of the Henny Cider Classic Speed Championship. As the Buckler Bellamy Special of Dennis Bissell makes his way up on the line, it's the Pringett Mistral of Les Butt, car number 102, who is in fourth place at the moment. And away he goes. Dennis Bissell didn't set a time on his first run, so hopefully he will get one in on this run. Still just the one time shown at the moment, that for Mark Bainbridge, who leads this class at the moment. Dennis Bissell does a 77.98 his first time. That leaves him in 7th position. As away goes Carol Nichols in the Nike Mark 4, 104. Carol in 6th place at the moment. Les Buck with a 51.31, improving on his 54.11 in the first run, moves up to 3rd place. So away goes Carol Nichols. In fact, away goes David Owen in the Merlin Mark 11. Up onto the line now comes 106 Jeremy Rivers Fletcher in that Triumph Special home-brewed machine, lying in 2nd place on handicap at the moment. Carol Nichols again improving her time by something like 10 seconds from a 69.65 on run 1 to a 59.59 on run 2 as Jeremy Rivers Fletcher gets underway. Next to the line comes Andy Tippett in the 3.5 litre V8 Buick powered Brabham. He was in 4th place at the end of that run, but he is now down to 5th because David Owen has just set a time of 50.83 against a 56.93 in run 1, and that means he's moved up to 2nd place ahead of Jeremy Rivers Fletcher, who is still on his 2nd run, of course. Andy Tippett heads away. And that completes, I think, the single seaters, the pre-77 racing cars. Next up, it will be the first of the saloons in the Bugatti All-Comers category. We wait for the time from Jeremy Rivers-Fletcher, who manages to pull back second place, knocking 7/10 of a second off his first run time. He goes down from a 54.60 to a 53.90. So just Andy Tippett, I think, to register a time at the moment, as Tom Morrison in the Renault Twingo 1600 heads away, first of the Bugatti Owner Club All-Comers Saloons to take their second run. And Andy Tippett improving his time but not his position, of 48.59, better than his 49.72 in run 1, but still remains in 5th place. So it is Mike Bainbridge, number 100, who takes the class in the Ensign LNF3. Second place to Jerry Rivers-Fletcher, 106 in the Triumph Special, and in third place it's 105, David Owen in the Merlin Mark 11. As we move on to the All-Comers Saloons, leading this after the first run, it was Tim Dennis, 118 in the Subaru Impreza, the 2.5 litre version, the STI. As David Garnett in the Renault Clio makes his way up the hill, onto the line comes 111, Julian Harbour in the Mini Clubman. So again, Tom Margirossi improves his time by over a second, from 59.07 to 57.67, and that gives him at the moment at least second place in the saloon category. As Julian Harbour then waiting to get underway in the Mini on the line. And away goes then the 111 car. He was in around about 10th position, I think. And if we get another time in David Garnett, 115 in the Renault Clio with a 54.05, better than his 55.47 in the first run, and that currently puts him in 5th place on handicap. As Julian Harbour rounds pardon, Charlotte Thurston in the BMW Mini sits on the start line, car number 114. Charlotte is currently in 6th place. Up to the line now comes Mark Maynard in the Hillman Imp, the 998cc Hillman Imp, currently lying in 4th spot. As Julian Harbour with a 54.27, part 111, which improves significantly on the 57.45 of his first run, but he's still down in 9th position. Mark Maynard on his way up the hill then in the Imp, and on the start line it's Jez Kurzweil, 117 in his 1275 Mini. As we get another time in, and Charlotte Thurston goes from a 58.17 first run to a 56.60 in the second run and moves up into 2nd place. So Charlotte Thurston in 2nd place in that BMW Mini, still leading it at the moment, about to take his second run, because he's just dropped to 2nd place as well, because Mark Maynard, 113, the Hillman Imp, moves into the lead after recording a 55.14 second run compared to his 57.3 seconds in the second run. So Tim Dennis now needing to chip very nearly a second off his first run time to regain the lead in the Impreza. He heads up the hill in that 2.5 litre 4-wheel drive machine, going into Ettores now. As I say, a second to find if he's to regain the lead in the Bugatti Owners Club All-Comers Saloon category. And it looks like we've got a red flag coming out. Unfortunately, I don't think... Not sure if that will prevent Tim Dennis completing his run or not. Well, unfortunately, the red flags have had to come out because of a stray dog getting onto the track, which is rather frustrating, especially for Tim Dennis, who's going to have to do it all again by the looks of it, as he tries to reclaim the lead. At the moment, then, it is 113. Mark Maynard, who leads the way in the Hillman Imp. Second place for 118, Tim Dennis in the Impreza, and 114, Charlotte Thurston in the Mini Cooper S, the BMW Mini Cooper, in third place. Fourth place is the Renault Twingo, number 110 of Tom Mogirossi. And then it is fifth for 117, Jez Kurzweil in the Rover Mini, and completing the top six, it's 715, Ian Richards in the Renault Clio 182. Well, confirmation that the red flag did prevent Tim Dennis completing his second run, so he will have to go again. As I say, he was leading the class after the one run. At the moment, he's in second place behind Mark Maynard. Meanwhile, efforts are still being made to apprehend the stray dog. So we're still waiting for word that the dog has been safely restrained. As soon as we get that, we'll be able to get things back underway. As I say, it will entail a rerun for Tim Dennis in the Subaru Impreza. So the course cars just making their way back down the hill with the incident dealt with, so you can get things back underway just as soon as they reach the bottom of the hill. They come round Ettores in the wrong direction, of course. We'll be back into the paddock very shortly, and we can restart the timed runs. Next up, it looks as if it will be 710 Richard Blogue in the Renault Sport Twingo 133. Richard currently in 8th position after his first run when he did a time of 58.66. So then away goes Richard Blogue in the Twingo. His time on his first run of 58.66, and well, he'd have to better that by just over a second to move up a place, I think, at the moment. Second and a half would move him up 2 places. To get to the lead, he would have to do something better, in excess of 3.5 seconds improvement. We've seen improvements like that already this afternoon, so it's not impossible by any means, but we'll wait and see just what sort of time he can get. As 7:15 on the line now. Ian Richards, currently 6th in class on handicap in the Renault Clio 182. Away goes Ian Richards and 7:15. We still wait for time for Richard, and Richard moving up into 4th position. Richard Blogue improving by over 2 seconds. He did a 58.66 on his first run, of 56.43 seconds on run 2, and that currently moves him into 4th place in class. Ian Richards looking to better his 53.94, and he's only got to well, just fractions of a second could move him up significantly. In fact, half a second would move him up close to the top 3, as Tim Dennis then starts his second, or his rerun in the second runs, and he is looking for just a little over a second to retake the lead in the class. After his rerun, it will be the Bugatti Owners Club All-Comers Sports category, and Noor Ali, number 120 in the Mazda Mx-5 1600cc machine, will be first off the line. Away he goes. So Ian Richards does improve, but by a little under half a second, 53.94 to 53.57 on his second run. And that means he remains in 6th spot at the moment. On the line now, car 121 is Ross Stone in his 911 RS, the Gulf liveried car, as Tim Dennis does a 50.37 compared to a 51.25, but that's not enough to retake the class lead. It's Mark Maynard in the Hillman Imp who takes the saloon class in the Bugatti Owners Club All-Comers. Second place to 118 Tim Dennis in the Subaru Impreza, and in 3rd place it is 114 Charlotte Thurston in the BMW Mini Cooper. So that's the saloons. Let's move now on to the sports cars, and already Noor Ali has made a big improvement from a 58.01 to a 56.99 to move into 3rd place at the moment, leading the class as we go into these second runs. Is Peter Taylor, car 128. 127 is the car on the line at the moment. Peter Taylor 128 in the Mazda Mx-5. It's the Lotus Elise S1 of Austin Weltman who is on the line. But Ross Stone also improving his time from a 55.81 on his first run, 54.22 on the second run, and that puts him 4th in class at the moment as Austin Weltman gets away on the hill. Also is Michael Thompson in the Honda S2000. So the Lotus Elise then coming into Ettores. And cleanly around the right-hander, heads on up towards Pardon. But we have a new leader in the class, because having done a 51.93 second run in the first runs, in the second run Michael Thompson has done a 50.38. So it is Michael Thompson then who moves into the class lead in car 128. Sorry, car 125, of course, from Michael Thompson. It is the Honda S2000 that currently leads then from 128, the leader after run 1, Peter Taylor in the Mazda. Then it's Austin Weltman, who's done a 55.68. So that's quite an improvement on his 58 second run in the first run. So Austin Weltman in the Lotus Elise S1 currently in 3rd place. Everybody who has crossed the line so far has improved from the first to the second runs. On the hill at the moment, 129, David Franklin, who runs that SLK 350, just going around Pardon at the moment, as off the line goes 130 Robert Orford in the MGB Roadster with the 1950cc engine under the bonnet. Robert was down around about 10th place after the previous run. But Peter Taylor has retaken the lead. 128, Peter Taylor did a 53.65 in the first run, a 52.67 second run, bettering his handicap time by exactly 1 second. So Peter Taylor back in the lead, down to 2nd place goes 125 Michael Thompson, and 3rd place for 127 Austin Weltman. 56.99 for David Franklin compared to his 58.01 on run 1. As Peter Clark heads away in car 131, the MGB Midget. So the MG Midget, not the MGB Midget. On the line now is Frank Ashley, 132 in the MG M-Type, just 847 cc's. As around Pardon goes Peter Clark, 131. He is currently showing in 4th place after on his first run time. Can he improve on that as Frank Ashley gets away in the M-Type MG? Wait for Peter Clark to cross the line and his time to come up. 54.86 was his time on the first run. He moves up into 3rd place with a 54.22 on his second run. Dave Morris on the line at the moment in the MGTC, 1350 cc's. Old Speckled Hen Racing on the door. As Frank Ashley makes his way around Pardon. Up to the line now comes 134, the Mike Meredith in the Morgan 8, yet to register a time, of course, after going off or going straight on. That should be a more accurate description of Pardon on the his first run as the MGTC of Dave Morris makes his way around that hairpin. Frank Ashley making up a little bit of ground as well. The M-Type is now up to 5th place, having taken well over 2 seconds off his time. He did a 76.77 on the first run, 74.08 on this second run. As the the Morgan 8 successfully makes its way around Pardon this time. It's 136 on the line, and that is the Porsche, the 996 GT3 of Robert Lancaster Gay. But what about Mike Meredith? Yet to register a time. And he's registered a time now of a 51.05, and that leaves him outside the top 10, unfortunately, after that fail on the first run. So 134 Mike Meredith then, not able to make much impact on the results at the moment. Still it is Peter Taylor, 128, who leads from 125 Michael Thompson, 131 Peter Clark in third place, as Simon Tarling heads away in his 996 GT3, car 137. Robert Lancaster Gay improving by just 2/10 on his first run time, 50.44, followed up by a 50.24 on the line at the moment. Phil James in the Porsche Cayman, 3.4. So he's still getting to grips with this car after previously campaigning a John Cooper Works Mini. He's on his way up the hill now. Down somewhere around 16th position after his first run. He goes round to Torres. On the line it is 140 Jerry Neary in the Westfield SE1, as around Pardon goes Phil James in the Cayman. So Simon Tarling in his Porsche managing to improve from a 53.63 to a 52.41 on his second run. Jerry Neary makes his way around, and it's John Bradshaw in another Westfield. This is the SEIW on car number 141, who is on the start line at the moment. So quite a jump up for Phil James on that run. He moves up into, I think it's 11th place. He did a 55.68 on the first run and improves with a 53.46, over 2 seconds improvement on that second run. Bradshaw his way up in the Westfield as the Mazda Mx-5 of Emma Ali, car 720, sits on the line. So that's 1600cc MX-5 Mazda making its way around, and next up it will be the 911 RS, once again the Golf liveried machine, this time in the hands of 721 Chris Stone. At the moment it's still 128 Peter Taylor leads in the Mazda MX-5 ahead of 125 Michael Thompson in the Honda S2000 and 131 Peter Clark in the MG Midget. We're about to move on to racing cars as Chris Stone makes his way around in the 911, and the first of the racing cars is 124 Edward Tyack in the Ginetta G16. And suddenly we have a new second place, because Emma Ali has just done a 62.66, knocking very nearly 7 seconds after her first run time of 69.51, and Emma Ali moves up into second place, behind 128 Peter Taylor and ahead of 125 Michael Thompson. so. Peter Taylor then taking the class provisionally, at least in the MX-5, the 2-litre MX-5. Then it's Emma Ali in the 1600 MX-5. This all on handicap, of course. And in third place, it's the Honda S2000 125 Michael Thompson. As Edward Tyack is on the hill, as is Dominic Hendell in that interesting looking Lancia Aurelia single-seater. Meanwhile, the ERA R4D of Nick Topless is on the start line, 142. Dominic Hendell just making his way around Pardon. It is Nick Topless who on handicap leads after the first run. Edward Tyack in the Ginetta G16 just knocking 3 seconds off his time to move into third place. 51.07 of run 1, bettered by a 48.21 on run 2, as Topless looks to be trying pretty hard as he came round Itobi's then. Going to hang on to that class lead. He goes round Pardon and away into distance. We wait for the next car to come up the line, which it does now. It's the 150 car of Richard Alexander. Red flags out once again, unfortunately. So just the one time at the moment registering for the single-seaters in their second runs. Well, still not too clear what the red flag was for, but it looks like we're going to be able to get back underway. It looks like there was a slow running car, possibly mechanical problems, that was getting caught, so that's why they had the red flag it. So there's going to be a couple of reruns, I think, probably there. But meanwhile, on to the line now. It is Richard Alexander, 150 in the Force PC. The revs rise, and away he goes. So 3 miles an hour then under the bridge. Into Torres. Powers it out of there. On towards Pardon. Around the hairpin he goes. On up towards the S's, as on the line now is the Chevron B19, a car that was owned by the late Joe Seifert in 1971, driven by Gerard LaRousse, so quite some history attached to this car, which Amanda George powers off the line now, car running 51 then. 52.63 second run on the first run. Meanwhile, Richard Alexander improves his time on his second run. He did over 45.69 on run 1. Run 2 is a 44.28. But that still puts him, I think, just outside the top 10. As Amanda George heads up through the S's, we wait for the next car to come down onto the line. And we look for a time for Amanda in that chevron. As I say, a 52.63 on her first run, and that is improved by just over 2 seconds to a 50.60 second run on the second run. 151. Amanda George, and in the chevron doing 50.60. So again, virtually, well, certainly everyone so far, just 3 cars gone up the hill in this racing car category, but all improving their time so far. Robert Penrose, 152 in the OMS CFO 4 with a 998cc motorcycle engine, is on the hill at the moment and heading into a Torres. I'm just wondering if he might have a problem. He does seem to be running quite slowly at the moment. On the line now, the 142, Nicholas Topless goes for his rerun after being red flagged on the first run. Still leading the class based on his handicap time and his run time on run 1. Away he goes now in that ERAR4D. And slightly cleaner into Tories this time than first time. Piling on the lot coming out of there though, and then heading up towards pardon, around the left-hander. And again the power goes on and into the S's. So the time that he's looking to better is a 50.65 on run 1. As on the line is 153, Kevin Creven in the Swallow DR14. Kevin gets away. And a sub 50 second time for Nicholas Topless. Haven't done the 50.65 on run 1. On run 2 he does a 49.98. And at the moment at least he's about 2.85 seconds ahead on handicap of his closest rival, who is Clive Austin, number 154 of the Empire Wraith, and who should be on the line at the moment? 154 Clive Austin. So he has to find, as I say, something like 2.85 seconds to get ahead of Nicholas Topless, and away he goes. Just under the bridge at 83 miles an hour as 155, the Type 51 Bugatti of Edmund Burgess, goes up to the line. A pretty good effort at the moment by Clive Austin in that Empire Wraith with a 1054cc motor. But can he do anything about Nicholas Topless? As away goes Edmund Burgess in that Bugatti. And Austin, in fact, not able to better his first run time. He did a 41.35 on the first run, a 41.76. On the second one, he remains in second place behind Nicholas Topless in the ERA and ahead of Edward Tyack in the Ginetta G16. Car 156 is on the line, and that is Ben Fiddler in the ERA B type. Ben currently in 6th spot in the class with a time of 53.55 in his first run. And needs to find about a second to get up into the top 3 in this ERA B type. Away he goes. And all sorts of opposite lock there as he heads up towards Tories, and really trying hard. Fair play in the ERA B type. This is Ben Fiddler into the hairpin at Pardon. Cleaner around there, up towards the S's. Pushing hard. this 1930s machine. And we will wait to see what the effect of all that is. Up to the line now comes 157, Lynn Gilbert in the OMS Hornet. Ben Fidler suddenly jumps up to second place with a 52.21 compared to his 53.55. So it's an ERA 1-2 at the moment in the class, as away goes Lynn Gilbert in the Hornet. And up onto the line comes 702, Lindsay Summers. Lindsay in the DJ Firehawk. Just in fact in 10th spot, I think, after the first runs. So Idle Tyack now dropping down to 4th place because it's Nicholas Topless who leads in the ERA. There's Ben Fidler in the ERA, and in 3rd place in the Empire Wraith now is Clive Austin. Lindsay Summers out there going under the bridge at 78 miles an hour. Going around Pardon now. As onto the line then comes 163, Tatham in the OMS 25. Just getting him lined up so that he doesn't trip the start beam prematurely or get a flying start over the line. Just need to get it spot on. Summers incidentally improving with a 44.63 compared to the 45.12 on the first run. So we're just about ready, I think, now for Pete Tatham to get underway in the OMS. Get the thumbs up. Revs start to rise, and a little bit of a hesitant start, and then hitting the rev limiter by the sounds of it as well. Not the cleanest of getaways there for Pete Tatham in the OMS. 164 coming up to the line next. Jason Tunnicliffe in the Empire Evo, and on the Empire Wraith of Clive Austin is up into 3rd place. What can Jason Tunnicliffe do in the Empire Evo? Away goes Jason. 2 miles an hour on the bridge. Peter Tatham jumps up to 5th place, taking over 2 seconds off of his run 1 time. 43.62 in run 1, 41.28 in run 2. So good run there for Pete Tatham, bringing him up to that 5th place. Murray Wakeham in the OMS CF96 is on the start line and goes away. And that 999cc motorcycle engined single-seater. Murray just outside the top 10 as he started this run. Tatham now, as I say, in 5th spot. Jason Tunnicliffe, his second run was just 0.02 of a second slower than his first run. He currently lies in 6th place. Einan Price on the line now, car number 12, the Force TA, and away goes Einan. 93 miles an hour onto the bridge, so good getaway there for Einan Price. A little bit of a lock-up there, perhaps going into Ettores, or was that just kicking up? Just lifts a wheel coming out of Ettores. I'm not sure you're supposed to do that in a single-seater, but it seemed to work for him. And around Pardon he goes on into the S's. And really trying hard there. Number 9, Robert Kenrick in the GWR Raptor 2 gets away. Another of these motorcycle engined machines. How was Einan Price done? He did a 39.55 on the first run, but on handicap that's only enough to get him in number 10th place. Let's see, he's jumped up to 4th position now. He's taken over a second off his time. Run 1 was a 39.55, run 2 38.46. So 4th place then for Einan Price at the moment, as the man who has been fastest all day, Sean Gould, in the family car, the Gould GR59 JB, on the line. Car number 7. His time on the first run, 37.58. He would have to better that by something in excess of 4 seconds to win on handicap. I'm not quite sure that's possible, frankly, but he's going to try as hard as he can, I'm sure of that. And away he goes up the hill, under the bridge at 96 miles an hour. I think that's about the quickest time we've seen under there already, into Ettores, around the hairpin. Long right-hander, up to the real hairpin, up to Pardon. This looks like a very neat, very quick run. Picks up the dust there, but through the S's, as on the line now is 750 Paul Alexander in the Force PC, the 1300cc machine. As we look for a time for Sean Gould, as I say, 37.58 was his first run. He's knocked a 10th off it, a 37.48 for Sean Gould, but on handicap that leaves him down in 10th or 11th spot, in fact. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11th place then for Sean Gould on handicap, as Paul Alexander gets away. Still it is then Nicholas Topless in the ERA, and Ben Fiddler also in the ERA first and second, with Clive Austin 154 in the Empire Wraith in 3rd place, and Price 4th, Murray Wakeman 5th. Richard George is sat on the line, 77.51 in that ex-Gerard Larousse Chevron B19 1975cc. Heads up the hill. 7.52 is Bob Penrose in the OMS CF04. He's on the start line as Richard George runs between Ettores and Pardon into the hairpin now. Chevron away from there on up towards the S's. As 7.52 then gets underway. Bob Penrose on his way. 7.53 is Jonathan Evans in the Swallow DR14. Away Bob Penrose, goes Jonathan Evans rather. And on the line now, 7.57, Chris Howard Harris in the OMS Hornet, the 599cc engine. Away now. Around Ettores then. Motorcycle engine machine. And up towards the line. Here comes number 2, the man who's I think set the second quickest time of the day so far with a 37.76, just behind Sean Gould. It's Alex Summers in the DJ Firehawk, but despite that time, still down in around about 9th position on handicap. Under the bridge at 96 miles an hour, turns in a little bit late into the Tories, it appeared to me. This is the last of the single-seaters. We'll be moving on to the Ferraris in just a moment as he goes through the S's. And on the line, the fabulous-looking Ferrari 250 GT short wheelbase. Car 171, the car of John Goodwin, and away he goes. As we wait to see the time that Alex Summers can achieve. Can he better that 37.76 in run 1? And the answer is no, because he's 100th of a second slower, 37.77 for Alex Summers. So John Goodwin, who, well, there's no handicaps. The one category without handicaps is the Pirelli Ferrari Hill Climb Championship. He was 4th quickest up the hill on the opening runs with a 60.55. The car certainly given away a few years compared to its rivals. On the line at the moment is Pauline Goodwin in the Ferrari 328. Pauline was in 3rd place after the first run. Away goes the 328. Significantly newer, of course, than the 250 GT, but older than the other cars in this category. Heads around Ettore there. 173 on the line at the moment is Peter Rogerson in the 360 modern at F1. So the floppy paddle gear change, as it's often referred to, the first road car to offer that in the day. So John Goodwin not able to improve on his first run time, but was pretty consistent because he did a 60.55 on the first run and has just done a 60.61 second run, as away goes Peter Rogerson in that 360 Modena. Coming up to the line now, 174 is the car that led after the first run, and that is Nick Taylor with a 49.79 second run on the opening runs. Pauline Goodwin, meanwhile, has improved her time but remains in 3rd place. She did a 56.50 on run 1, 55.99 on the second run. So away goes Nick Taylor. Can he improve on that time of 49.79 seconds, which gives him very nearly a 5-second advantage over the second place car anyway, and it is that second place car that comes onto the line now. 176 Mark Wibberley in the 360 Spider. Away goes Mark, 54.73 his opening run. Peter Rogerson also improving his time by very nearly a second, from a 61.65 on run 1 to a 60.73 on the second runs. Wait to see what Nick Taylor can do. He did a 49.79. He goes quicker. He's done a 49.13 second run compared to that 49.79 on the opening run. So impressive performance by Nick Taylor, consistent running. I think that could well have clinched the class for him. We just wait for Mark Wibberley's time. Meanwhile, looks like a parade lap. That is Sean Gould, I think, going up the hill, taking the plaudits for setting the fastest time of the day. Mark Whibley, incidentally, goes quicker, remains in second place, 54.73 seconds in the first run, 53.54 in the second run. So that means that the Pirelli Ferrari Hill Climb Championship result is as follows. Winning the class 174 is Nick Taylor in the 430 Coupe, a time of 49.13 seconds. Second place for 176, Mark Whibley in the 360 Spider with a 53.54. Third place for Pauline Goodwin in the Ferrari 328 with a 55.99. In fourth place, it's John Goodwin in the 250 GT short wheelbase with a 60.55. And in fifth place, it is 173, Peter Rogerson. Peter in the Ferrari 360 Modena with a time of 60.73 seconds. That concludes the action then from Prescott Hill Climb today. We've had some great action, some beautiful cars to watch. We hope you've enjoyed it very much. Thank you for being with us. We hope you'll rejoin tomorrow at the around about the same time for the second day of this Bugatti Owners Club Run meeting. Thanks to all the marshals, thanks to all the drivers, and thank you for your support. We look forward to seeing you very soon, hopefully tomorrow. And don't forget to tell your friends. But for the meantime, for myself, Peter Hughes, the commentator, on behalf of all the Bugatti Owners Club team, thanks once again, and a very good evening.